Boomer Sooner has invested in their man for the long haul as life in the SEC is officially around the corner. Brent Venables receives a contract extension. Was it a genius move, or did Oklahoma make a bit of a premature decision? Hello, everyone. I'm Chris Phillips. He's Dave Shumate. We are here. We are live with SEC Unfiltered. Appreciate each and every single one of you tuning in. Make sure you like, subscribe, turn notifications. Check us out via podcast wherever you get your podcast. You can also find us across all social media platforms, as well as our website, secunfiltered.com. We're brought to you by our friends, guys, over at SeatGeek. Head over to SeatGeek.com. Use promo code SECU to get $20 off your first purchase. Guys, the college football season's just over 2 months away. You're going to be buying your tickets. Our friends at SeatGeek are the way to go. So, again, SeatGeek.com. Promo code SECU to get $20 off today. Like I mentioned, guys, join my good friend Dave Shumate, who's going to help me break down and talk about the latest news out of Norman, Oklahoma. Brent Venables is getting an extension and a pay raise. Dave, what's going on, man? Appreciate you taking the time.
Oh, man. It's that time of year. I guess it's kind of contract extension. I mean, not kind of, it is. I mean, Brent Venables, even if he's the only one, is getting one. But it's that time of year, man. We're getting close. We're less than a month away from SEC Media Days. Chris, you'll be in Dallas?
Less than a month. We are 69 days away from kickoff. Nice to SEC football. So, yeah, less than a month till Media Days, and then we're really rocking and rolling there, Dave, with fall camp just around the corner. So, like you mentioned,
Chris, you that guy? Yeah. Are you that guy that's it's officially football season at Media Day?
Oh yeah, I am that guy. I am that guy that as soon as July 4th is over, it is football season. That is, once we hit July 5th, the blitz is on. Media Days is in 10 days or so, and I mean it's football season at that point. So, like you mentioned, Dave, this feels like maybe an early kickoff to football season, at least in Norman, Oklahoma. Brent Venables, in case you guys missed the news, receives a new 6-year contract and a raise ahead of course, Oklahoma's first season in the SEC. The details of this coming out on Friday afternoon. It is a new 6-year deal worth $51.6 million. That will keep him at Oklahoma through the 2029 season. He'll earn an average of $8.6 million annually for the duration of the contract, including a salary of $8.15 million in 2024. And just to break it down even further, that is $7,225,000 in 2024, plus an annual base salary of $325,000 and an annual installment of $600,000 that goes towards retirement. Oklahoma had this to say, by the way, guys, quote, "We're proactive about contracts as best we can, and we're watching the market. We're certainly recognizing the performance of our coaches, the role they play in leadership, the importance of not just talking about stability and the forward thinking and what our program wants to do in tracking toward future success, but demonstrating it." That comes from OU Athletics Director Joe Castiglione Jr. He said, quote, "I think our move and the contract for Coach Venables is a perfect example of that. What he's been doing since he's been on campus for 2 years. And as we're moving into a new league and setting the foundation in the right place for us to be successful moving forward and pursue championships, just like all the best teams are trying to do and the ones that we're competing against." Again, in case you missed it, Venables was hired by OU in December 2021. He was signed to a 6-year, $43.5 million contract at that point. And again, a further breakdown, guys. Venables in 2025 going to make $7.625 million. 2026, $7.725. 2027, there's no raise. 2028, it goes to $7.825. And 2029, it goes to $7.925. So again, 6-year extension through 2029. Dave, you and I was talking off air. We had different reactions to this, I think, and I think that's what makes this conversation so fascinating. So, Dave, my first reaction to this, I think it is a genius move from the standpoint of getting it done before SEC Media Days, getting it done, of course, before your first full season in the SEC, and presenting a strong front going into life in the SEC. Like, we've got our guy. We know this is our guy. You know, there's no confusion. There's no up in the air about it. Like, this is our dude. We are invested in for the long haul. So I think from that standpoint, it's a positive, and I understand why they're doing it. Now, your take was very interesting. And again, we've published this on social media. Dave, you said two things can be true at once. The future is bright for Oklahoma under Brent Venables, but the contract extension is a bit premature. Talk about that, because I see where you're coming from. We've seen contract extensions backfire before, but why was that your immediate reaction to this?
I mean, what is he? 16-10 as a head coach, 0-2 in bowl games. And I don't really hold the bowl. I mean, Chris, me and you were the same age. You remember when bowl records kind of used to be a big deal to Haggis? Oh, remember, he just, with a month to prepare, people can figure out his offense. I'm just using an example. That used to be held against coaches more. I mean, now with the transfer portal, they started Jackson Arnold in that Alamo Bowl this past year against Arizona. It's a glorified scrimmage to an extent. So I'm not going to hold your bowl record against you. But as a head coach, 16-10, thought they made a big jump last year. I do understand where Castiglione's coming from, where you feel like you got your guy, lock him in. But I feel like sometimes these administrations just get taken to the woodshed at times with these coaching contracts when they don't have to. And I think some of it goes back to almost like a psychological approach where, like, look, Joe Castiglione is not paying Brent Venables out of his own pocket, out of the Oklahoma piggy bank, but not out of his own savings, Bank America, I doubt he's with Regions, wherever his bank account is from. It's not paying. So like sometimes it's like, hey, it's not my money. Like, let's see what we can work up. We'll go raise it. Now the people that are donating the money and stuff like that are going to come back to your investors essentially and be like, hey, they're going to want a return on their investment. What's going on? So he's going to have to answer to that, Castiglione is. But I think sometimes I've told it, I think me and you've talked before, Chris, and I've told it to buddies all the time. It's like these athletics departments, just Jimmy Sexton, CAA, just take these schools, administrators to the woodshed sometimes. And I feel like some of these contract extensions are a little unwarranted, and you wouldn't see that in any other organization or industry. 16-10, your first 2 years on a job, let's just say at Google. I mean, what would that equate to, Chris? A pretty above average performance? Like nothing exceptional. Like, I mean, if you're equating that in a real world environment, and I tell you somebody's record 16-10, what are you thinking, Chris? That's a report card grade there.
Well, definitely not at Oklahoma either. I mean, I don't.
Correct.
There are some.
It's be a big organization you're working for.
There are some schools where if you average 8 wins a year, you are getting a contract extension. I don't think Oklahoma's. I don't think they're one of those schools, and I don't think they want to be one of those schools. I mean, Oklahoma fans they scoff at the idea they might go 7-5 or 8-4 in year one of SEC play. This is a program with a proud history and a rich tradition. They expect to win double-digit games every year. They expect I think Oklahoma is a school, Dave, that in this new era of college football, and Oklahoma fans can tell me if I'm wrong. I don't think I am, though. I think they expect to be in the playoff every year. I mean, I think that's what Oklahoma football expects. So, to your point, I don't think they're making this investment because they think he's going to average 8 wins a year. I think they believe that double-digit wins like they saw last year, that's going to be the norm. So I agree with you, though, Dave. I see both sides of it from the standpoint of you want to put together that unified front. And I understand it from the recruiting side, too. Like, you want to have that long contract. You're recruiting.
Confidence. Yeah.
Right. There's no issues about, hey, there's 4 years on your contract. And, like, are you going to be there the whole time? This, that, whatever. So I understand you got to have that window. At the same time, though, as much as you want to believe something is true, what happens if you get in the SEC and you look, a year or two goes by and you go, oops, we made a mistake. You know what the number we don't have in this contract, and I've been looking for it and I can't find it. What's the buyout? I'd love that.
I think that's the biggest, because in reality, it's really just a 2-year extra extension. Like, right. What is the buyout before you really start either yaying it or downing it? That's kind of what I'm with you. I was literally,
and I don't think,
like, Chris, I may have missed this, but did you see anybody dig through the details and find that buyout? I was literally about to ask that.
I have not seen anything. Again, in case I missed it. So I'm sure. I mean, listen, I'm sure that's something where you don't really want to talk about it all that much because you want to assume that it's going to work. But no, I don't see any buyout numbers. But to your point, I mean, it's and I think Oklahoma's an interesting case where how long? I don't think Brent Venables is going to get 6-7 years. It just figured. I mean, if they give him this contract extension, if the first 2 years of life in the SEC are a 6-6 and a 7-5, he might be gone.
You're going to sink or swim real fast. There's not going to be a real learning. I mean, the first 2 years. I mean, again, you've seen it. We've talked about it, Chris. We've done SEC football content all off season. I mean, their schedule's tough. I think their league schedule's probably tougher than Florida's. Florida has a tougher non-conference slate when you factor in Miami and UCF. But I think Oklahoma's conference schedule right on par with Florida. So, I mean, I have them in that 6 to 8 win range. I mean, I think an 8-win season would be a phenomenal year with that schedule, maybe pull another upset win, get Texas or maybe at Alabama at home is that signature win. But with the contract specifically, I'm like, why did you didn't have to. So why did you do it? That's a little bit of like, man, you're just spending money a little bit. And again, till we know the contract, the buyout details, I can't go hook, line, and sinker on this one, but a little bit like I didn't think it was necessary in the moment. And again, I'm one of those people, I tweeted today, I'm a bigger believer in Brent Venables long-term than I am Lincoln Riley. Just the way Brent Venables is, I think the way he's building the roster on both sides of the line of scrimmage, and they lost 6 guys on the offensive line this past year. They had to replace it. That's a big question mark, as you know. But they're bringing in guys on the defensive line that Oklahoma and players defensively overall at all 3 levels, they haven't seen since maybe Brent Venables was there as the defensive coordinator. Like, I mean, the way Lincoln Riley managed that roster, and specifically on the defense, because you're not going to talk much about him offensively. Again, I'm not going to. He did what he did offensively, did a phenomenal job. But defensively, it was roster malpractice. How bad they were, in every category, statistically, every major category defensively, personnel wise, they didn't ever have many defensive guys picked in the draft. I remember when I was at Texas A&M in 2018, we used to use a big statistic because we would go against Oklahoma pretty regularly, just geographically, and Texas before obviously they were joining the league when Tom Herman was there. And we would use it against them, how long it'd been since the Big 12 had a first-round defensive player drafted. I mean, Chris, it was something like, this is 2018 now. It was maybe 09 Texas. I forget, maybe had somebody. It was a long time for that league to go having a first-round defender drafted, dude. It was bad. And Lincoln Riley kind of led the charge because he was a face of that program. But my point being, I like Brent Venables, what he is doing long-term. Because signing guys like David Stone from IMG Academy, 6'4", 275. Brent Venables, Lincoln Riley was not doing that. And you know, Chris, you watched this league for a long time. It's a line of scrimmage league. You're going to win a line of scrimmage. You can go win a bunch of games offensively and stuff. And Lincoln Riley won some championships in the Big 12. But again, when they got into the playoffs in big situations, their defense always let them down. I don't think that's going to be the case for Brent Venables. I mean, he's a defensive guy, so he has a lot of pride on that side. Well, it's not going to happen. But long-term, if you made me pick to run my program, that's what I'm saying. I think it's maybe a little too early to give him this extension. But at the same time, I do believe in the future, and I do think he is the guy in the future for him. I can't really say that about Lincoln Riley, USC. So I like what Venables is doing. I just think overall, long story short, I think it's just a little premature.
You know, Dave, I would say this too, is that you can have this conversation, to your point, without – this isn't a conversation meant to knock Brent Venables in any way, but it's talking business. I mean, it's just about dollars and cents, and somebody's got to sign those checks, and it's like you never want to put yourself – whether you're a university or whoever, in a bad business place or a bad position. And I think the point being too, like, who was coming after Brent Venables that was going to steal him away? Like, did you really have to your point, did you have to do this? Again, on the flip side.
Unless my man pulled a Chip Kelly and just want to go be a coordinator somewhere.
And by the way, to your point about Lincoln Riley, they still ain't playing defense where he's at. So, I mean, I hear you 100%. I would take Brent Venables over Lincoln Riley as well. And I believe in what Brent Venables is doing at OU. And I think they're going to be a force in the SEC. Now, does that mean they're going to win 11 or 12 games every year? I don't think so. This isn't the Big 12, but I think Oklahoma still can be one of those teams, especially when we go to 14 teams, college football playoff, more often than not, let's say over the course of a decade. They're getting in there more often than not. I think OU's a blue blood. I think they're one of the premier programs in college football. I think they can continue to be that. I like where they're coming from the standpoint of a unified front. You go into the SEC. I mean, he's still only the 9th highest paid coach, Dave, in the SEC. So, like, when you put it in that perspective, it's also one of those things you want to make sure your guy is being paid fairly. And I don't know that the Oklahoma head coach should be the 9th highest paid head coach in the SEC. Like, I think if Brent Venables turns out to be, they're getting to the college football playoff more often than not, I think you could all of a sudden see him ascend to top 3 or 4 pay, because I know a school like Oklahoma, they're going to pay the right guy top dollar amount. I mean, again, you got to earn getting up to double-digit millions of dollars per year. But I think Oklahoma also wanted to show, hey, we're serious about winning, right? We all hear the jokes, right, Dave? Broklahoma, right? Yeah. We hear the Broklahoma jokes. They don't want to spend money or don't have it. You kind of put some of that to rest with this. So I think it's presenting a unified front, going into the SEC on firm footing. Now you go to SEC media days. This is already done. It's out of the way. You can talk about it. You can sell it now. Hey, I'm the guy. I'm here for the long haul. Oklahoma has kind of flexed their muscles of, hey, we're not just coming into the SEC hoping to compete. We're going to win big. We got our guy who's leading the charge. So
Yeah.
I like it from that standpoint. Again, I think it's all fair, though, to say, did you have to do it? But for me, the positive outweighs it. I think if you truly believe that's your dude, and Brent Venables being an OU guy, and that's the guy they wanted when they got a coach, I think you got to invest in him. So, I wasn't surprised to see it. I mean, again, now it's kind of like, okay, you're being paid fairly. Honestly, you're being paid somewhat like your peers. Again, he's still only the 9th highest paid coach in the SEC. So.
Which makes it sound, like you said, when you put it into 9th in the SEC out of the 16 teams, like you said, that makes it sound a little different now. Like, man, he's below the average of SEC head coaches' salaries.
Yeah. It is crazy to think. I mean, how much the coaches are getting paid. That's only good enough for 9th best in the conference. So Brent Venables, the Oklahoma Sooners, of course, he will lead OU first-year life in the SEC. Guys, we'd love to hear your thoughts. Was it the right move? Was it the wrong move? Was it a bit premature? Or was this a genius play by Oklahoma as they set to begin life in the SEC this fall? Guys, appreciate you all tuning in. Thank you so much. He's Dave Shumate. I'm Chris Phillips. Again, make sure you like, subscribe, turn on notifications. Check us out via podcast, wherever you get your podcasts. And, of course, we're all across social media, as well as our website, SECUnfiltered.com. For Dave Shumate, I'm Chris Phillips. We appreciate you guys tuning in, and we'll catch you on the other side.